Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. Welcome back, Crushers. I hope that you are absolutely crushing today. And let me tell you, I am really excited about this episode because gut health is actually a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It totally changed my life to dive in and actually heal my body and heal my gut and look at just deeper than the surface, deeper than looking at food as more than just fuel for my muscles. I have shared my personal story a little bit on my Instagram and in my Facebook group, and I will in this episode as well. So I won't bore you with the details right here, but I'm very excited to have Justine Benzinger on as our guest today to share more about gut health, more about her journey, why it's so important to pay attention to the health of your gut, and some tips, some symptoms and signs that maybe you need to look deeper into that as well, and some tips for bloating. And let me tell you just a little bit more about Justine before we dive into the episode. Justine is a health and fitness coach that specializes in empowering women to evolve into their fullest potential. By using personality type nutrition combined with personal development, she helps women find balance in their career, life, and fitness journey. And as we all know, hot girls have gut problems. From struggling with her own digestive issues for most of her life, she teaches women that the pains of IBS, constipation, and bloating don't have to be something that you put up with forever. Everyone, please welcome Justine Benzinger to the podcast. Welcome, Justine, to the Crushing with Abio podcast. It is so good to see you today. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I love your transition to coaching story because I'm all about finding what you love and going and doing it. So could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey into coaching?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of intertwine like my coaching journey a little bit along with my own health and fitness journey too, because they really aligned.
Absolutely.
So I have always been like, I played sports growing up and I've always definitely been athletic. But definitely when I got into that career world, corporate 9 to 5, I got heavier and I just couldn't keep a very consistent schedule between working and going out to happy hours and traveling for work. And I was doing all of this while living in New York. And one day, actually, oh my gosh, to this day, because my birthday is tomorrow.
Oh, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
October 12th, everyone.
Yeah, it was on my birthday 3 years ago that my now husband, he had an interview that we thought was going to be for a New York job. And they said, we want you, but it's in Miami. So my life kind of really turned upside down at that point. We were just dating. So within like 10 days, he proposed because he was, it was like, I'm not going to ask you to leave your job and everything just as my girlfriend. So he proposed. And then I quit a job that I was at for 6 years. I probably would have stayed at for a very long time, being decently happy. And then I moved to Miami. And throughout all this, my last like hurrah in New York, I was just eating everything in sight. I went to Europe for a few weeks, ate everything I possibly could.
Heck yeah.
The holidays came. And then I moved to Miami and I was literally just the heaviest I had ever been. And our apartment has a pool and a hot tub. And I was going down there and just felt really gross. I knew this like wasn't this wasn't how I was supposed to feel. And I was really insecure about it, especially in Miami where there are so many beautiful women everywhere.
Mhm.
So that's when I was like, okay, we're getting at this. Like I knew what to do, but I really started finally kind of more investing in my health and fitness on my own. And then along with that, had to get a job in Miami. And obviously Miami is not the corporate world as Manhattan is. So I got a really, really crappy job that was just terrible.
Oh.
And throughout that, I really just threw myself even more into health and fitness because I couldn't get up in the morning and go straight to that job. Like the only way I could get myself out of bed is like if I went to the gym first, because that at least kind of started to make me happy. And I was crying in the bathroom. The people were very, very mean. And I will be honest that finally COVID happening and the shutdown, I am someone that I feel guilty saying this, but slightly benefit from it. I really took that time. I started teaching 3 free Zoom workouts per week. So I just started teaching people on the internet. I'm like, all right, I'm going to teach free workouts. I had been thinking about getting like my personal trainer certification and nutrition. And I finally just had a little bit more free time because they had cut back a lot of my hours during COVID to go after that. And so along with aligning my own health and fitness journey, I lost 25 pounds. Plus I was able to put all this like actual knowledge and put it into work. And eventually I just, people just started coming to me. I had a friend reach out to me and she was honestly crying. And she said, this is terrible. She said, I'm at a suicide weight. Like I can't keep going on. She ended up being my first client that she lost almost 40 pounds, had a healthy pregnancy, which that was her goal there. And from that, it was just people kind of like doing the free classes, reaching out. And that's finally, I was just like, all right, I got a couple months under me. And I said, I'm never going back to this job.
Yeah.
I didn't even put 2 weeks in. I think I put like 5 days notice in and they tried to offer me more money. And I said, there is nothing you could not pay me enough to stay at this point. So that's kind of how it all intertwined there and then started coaching full time.
Amazing. I love that. It's a good example of when you change your life, then you can help change other people's lives too. And I know that you have really studied gut health and really gotten into that. I know because you have your own journey with that too. So tell me a little bit more about that as well, because I also have a gut health journey and they are no joke.
Yeah. When I start thinking about my gut health, I can literally think back to high school and we're going to get TMI here, guys, but
go for it.
I played
TMI.
AAU basketball and we would have 3 basketball games a day every weekend, right? It was tournaments and you would play a bunch of games. And I remember there would be girls on the team and they would be like, yeah, I poop before every game. And I was just flabbergasted by that because I'm like, I poop once a week, maybe. Like every 4 days. How are you pooping 3 times in a day? I just really didn't understand. And for the longest time, I thought that was just my normal, right? Everyone thinks, oh, that's normal. Even doctors, there are a lot of doctors be like, oh, once every 3 days is totally fine. And even when I went and I did my first cut where I really lost those 25 pounds, by the end of that cut, again, I was back at once every 4 days, once every 3 days. And the coach I was working with was just like, oh, take some magnesium supplement. Like that was about as far as it got there, which yes, magnesium is a good supplement for
drink some more water.
Yeah, it can be helpful, but at the end of the day, I kind of just knew that there was something more wrong. And then I really dove into, I'm a mentor of yours as well, but working with Travis Zipper. And through that, I actually did some stool testing. And it just solidified that I wasn't crazy and this wasn't normal. And I had a lot of things going on. So I had H. pylori, I had bacterial overgrowth, I had just a whole laundry list of things that needed to work on. And honestly, that I'm still working on. So in terms of that, I've just always really struggled with like bloating, literally looking like I was pregnant, obviously constipation. And then when I would go to the bathroom, it was like, if I don't get to the bathroom within 30 seconds, it's going to be like the scene from Bridesmaids. Like
Yeah.
that's what,
I was also thinking Along Came Polly when
oh gosh, like that's how it
we gotta
was.
go.
And when I lived in New York, I would take a bus into the city, and there were days where I'm like, I would pack, I never had to utilize them, but I would pack an extra pair of pants in my bag because I was just like, if I get stuck on this bus, like my stomach is not feeling okay. What am I like? I'm gonna be
Oh,
screwed.
oh, that's a
Um,
disaster. Oh,
yeah. So it's been a journey in terms of that. And like that's truthfully just finally also getting to a point of, oh my gosh, when you start pooping every day,
oh,
you
it's
feel
the
really good.
best. It's the
Yeah.
best. And I know like people are like, really pooping? But yes, like you want to get rid of all of that. And when I started my own gut health journey and I became like regular, like every day, and it was quick and it was easy and it was smooth. The first time that I had, I think it was the December level 2 event that I went to in Arizona last year for NCI. And I had a really early flight and like pooping in a public bathroom was never really like the most great. It's not a great experience. You just kind of want to get it over with. And I get in there and I text my coach after. I'm like, I am so grateful for my regularity because it was over and done. And the other person at the end of the stall was still in there. I was like, I didn't have to spend any time in there. And it just like, boop, done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think once you realize like how good that feels to get that out on a regular basis and it not be like an attack and it not be hard to get out, like, wow, it's really life-changing. And for me, I was struggling with eczema and like skin conditions. So it was very obvious and it was painful and it was very itchy. And I had been bloating, but I just knew it was something deeper. Like people would say, are you using this or are you using that or cut out dairy or whatever, this and that? And I'm like, I think I'm beyond the point of just eliminating entire this food group. And I didn't really have enough will. Like I had to hire somebody and be ready for that life change. Because if you're really struggling, like you do have to come to an acceptance. You might have to grieve some foods a little bit. And you have to know that this is sort of your new way of life. But it's so eye-opening. And I learned so much through that. Like I have such a better, a more vast appreciation for food as a healing source now than I ever did. Like it used to just be fuel for workouts, like get your carbs and your protein post workout, like now it's like, oh, I will actually have some vegetables too.
Yeah. No, I didn't even mention that, but one of the biggest, I did have so many skin issues, and that is something that is really, really changed by changing my food. And I think you had a point where, at the end of the day, like truly healing your gut, it is probably going to, you might have to stop eating certain foods.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that like just taking a probiotic, that's not going to fix your gut issues. Like that's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be like, oh, I'm just going to add this in.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having issues with dairy or gluten or eggs, right? Like you can't keep eating them. Like, and
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that people don't realize is like, they don't, I think, but you kind of almost hit that rock bottom part, right? Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't keep living this way.
No, not at all. And so like while we're talking about this and people are like, I don't know. I mean, like I wouldn't want to I'm just going to live with it so that I don't have to do any of that. But why is the health of our gut so important?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that people don't realize is that our gut really affects our brain, right? And so we have a nerve, it's the longest nerve in our body, the vagus nerve, and it attaches from our brain to our gut. And basically, when our gut is unhappy, it's going to cause one of the biggest things that people don't realize is a symptom of gut issues is brain fog.
Mhm.
It's going to kind of cloud your thought process, everything there. It's also just going to affect things like, are you absorbing nutrients, right? If
Mhm.
you're not like going to the bathroom correctly, there's clearly a digestive problem, which you're probably going to then have nutrient deficiencies. That's why a lot of people then maybe have hair loss along with that. And even looking down the road, things like osteoporosis, where if you are not absorbing your calcium, you're not absorbing iron. That's again, another big issue is that if you aren't you could be getting iron, you could be getting vitamin D in your foods, right? But if you aren't absorbing it, it's not going to help your body. And then long term leading to things like Alzheimer's, actually, in terms of a connection there. So
Wow.
it's so much more than just like, oh, I kind of look fat in this dress. It's really just how your body is functioning. And it's one of the most basic principles. Because again, I just think that there's no point in eating all these healthy foods and doing all of this stuff if it isn't working correctly in your body, right? It's like if someone's going to go to the gym and they keep doing squats and their form is just terrible, they're never going to, like, they're not building on a good foundation. They're never going to be able to increase that weight. And the same thing is going to happen in terms of, having a good, healthy digestion. Another thing that a lot of women don't realize, especially if you are on birth control, the way that we get rid of excess hormones is through pooping. And if you're on a hormonal birth control, one of the big symptoms is that it messes up your digestion. And then you are pumping excess hormones into your body. So not only are you not pooping and getting rid of those excess hormones, then you're just circulating more throughout yourself and just continually causing digestive issues. And, I kind of look back on like my health journey and I'm like, gosh, what was it? Like, was it the birth control that caused my issues? Was it, because
Right.
there's so many things, right? Was it the stress I
Absolutely.
used to put myself through? Was it international travel? That can be a very big thing if you are just eating foods in other countries. Parasites are actually way more common, I think, than people think. But looking at all of those things and making sure, and then finally, I think we would be remiss to not tie this back as well to neurotyping, which we both handle, right? So type 3s are most likely to have gut health issues. They're the most high stress of the types. And then also that's where a lot of our neurotransmitters are created, is in our gut. So things like serotonin, which makes us happy, and GABA, which calms us down. If we don't have a happy gut, that's a huge change I've noticed in terms of anxiety levels by starting to really take care of my digestion.
Yeah. And for type threes, like carbs are recommended to reduce stress, but it can't just be cookies and ice cream and tons of sugar, because sugar feeds all that bad. I remember when I was going, before I hired my coach, and I was getting like almost a daily sugary treat. And I mean like added sugar. I don't mean just like fruit. I would think to myself, like, I'm literally feeding the sugar monster that's inside of me, but I need this treat right now. Like, this is what's going to make me happy sort of temporarily, except for I was really just depressed and sad because my skin was freaking out, and like all those symptoms, a brain fog, like feeling low. And then if you do have the physical outside symptoms, all of that compounds. Like, I didn't want to be on video. I didn't want to get on lives. I didn't want to promote anything. I was just feeling really, really bad about myself. And then I was also wearing a mask at work a lot, and my face would be so itchy. So there's a lot of compounding factors. And we did talk about birth control. I had been on the Depo-Provera shot for a while, and my coach was like, totally wipes out your gut if you've been on antibiotics frequently, like that wipes out. And even just overusing like Tylenol or ibuprofen, just things that super simple things that we don't think about. And really until it becomes like a huge issue. Plus, the gut is where a large part of your immune system is. It's responsible for a large part of your immune system. And that's so important. I mean, if now is not the prime example of why having, a good immune system is important, like it really just is. Last fall when I was going through that and I was taking so many supplements to help kill and like repair and all these things, and I was looking at the ingredients, I felt what a great time for me to be going. Not, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but like, that's a great time for me to be going through a gut health journey, is when it's like cold and flu and like virus season, essentially, and pandemic season. COVID. I don't know. I don't know why I'm like skipping saying that, but I guess I feel like it's like when you're on Instagram and like a little thing's going to pop up, like bleep you out or something. But I was like, well, at least I'm helping feed my gut, like really good things. I'm pumping all this good stuff into me. And I felt like the change was very instant for me. The moment that I cut out the things that I guess were just making me feel that way, it was basically the change in eating that made me feel so much better. Almost within 2 weeks, my skin had drastically improved without supplements or changing my skincare routine. It was incredible.
Wow.
So it's insane. But it is, I say journey and I say like I did that last fall, but it doesn't really end. You still have to know, like you probably do, like what your boundaries are with food and what you need to watch out for and what you need to get to make sure that you're feeling the way that you want to feel and that your body is functioning the way that you would like it to function. And I have to as well sometimes. And I get a little sad about it because I'm like, but I just want to be able to eat whatever I want. But in reality, like too much alcohol, too much added sugar, like it's just not great for my skin and great
Yeah.
for me. So
Yeah. The past week I've been traveling, and when I am home, I am dairy and gluten free. I'm even like, I don't do like canola oil or any inflammatory oils. I hate using this term, but I eat very close to paleo.
mhm.
However, when I travel, that's just near impossible. And, I'm like, oh, like, not gonna eat this. It has dairy in it. And so many people will be like, oh, but you look great. Like you're so thin. And I'm like, guys, like
It's not
that is
about
not
that.
it. Like that has nothing to do
You
with
don't
it.
know what this is going to do to me if I eat that.
Yeah. So Friday night, my sister-in-law, she got married, you know, been drinking since mimosas earlier that day. Midnight, they get a pizza delivery. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have a slice of pizza. Literally within like 20 minutes, I
Oh,
was just like, hey guys, like don't walk in this corner. I just farted. And it's like so smelly and it's so embarrassing. And then the next morning I feel terrible. And I'm like,
yeah.
and pizza used to be my
Mhm.
favorite food. So it's like, yeah, this is not gonna work. Like
Yeah.
and I had Domino's. I'm like, God, if I'm gonna do this for pizza, it needs to be really good pizza. It was not worth it.
That's
Um,
actually how I feel as well. And I felt that way for a long time because I'm like, I work really hard for whatever I do in the gym, for my results, for my body, for my health. If I'm going to have pizza, like I want it to be like the restaurant where it's tossed and they throw it in the brick oven and it's like good stuff. But I mean, sometimes you just test the waters a little bit and then you're hard reminder of why you don't do that.
yeah. No, and I think you hit it on the point too of like it's definitely a journey. And if you guys are listening, I would say like I feel like your journey was very lucky. My journey has not been like that. Like it was
Mhm.
definitely not like, oh, just change my food. And so I went through kind of an elimination diet on my own before I did the stool testing. I noticed something, honestly, nothing added in back well. I was like, this is terrible. Like eggs,
Mhm.
chickpeas, like none of it came back in and was like, oh, I feel fine. It all gave me issues. So then from there, I did the stool testing. Then I did a 60-day antimicrobial plan, which that was again back to the elimination diet type of eating, which that helped a good amount. That's helped a lot. However, I still am not super regular. And I now just keeps giving me like more clues in terms of digging into my own health.
Mhm.
And I really think that I have a thyroid issue, which
Mhm.
if you have a thyroid issue, one of the main things is constipation there as well. And that's something I've kind of been like fighting with doctors a little bit because oftentimes I think they see someone who is fit and skinny and it's like, oh, if you haven't gained a bunch of weight, you must not have a thyroid issue. But I have a lot of other symptoms and finally got blood work, which is high for a functional medicine realm. However, standard medicine thinks it's normal. But then even getting into the point of it's high versus is, so if you're looking at TSH, anything over 2.5, you're more likely to have a miscarriage. And then that's something that I'm getting into within the next couple of years of my life. And I'm above a 3. I'm almost
Mm.
full. I'm at 3.15, and my doctor is just like, oh, that's fine. And I'm like, no, like I'm already doing so many of the things. Like I get sunlight, I go on walks, like I'm doing all these things normally that should be helping that.
Mhm.
So my journey is still like I am leaps and bounds where I started, but I have by
Mhm.
no means figured this all out with my
Yeah.
health.
No, and that's why, like, for anyone that's listening and that thinks that they might be struggling with this, like, hiring somebody to help you with this is, I mean, I would have never, I would have, I don't, I had to hire somebody, and
Mhm.
I knew of this company from meeting them the year before. And so I knew that they could help me get to the root without me going to doctors and getting a cream or some sort of like band-aid to pacify me, which wasn't going to work because that type of skin issue is rooted in the gut. And we actually did work on a little bit of, I got my an autoimmune test really quickly because she wanted to rule out any autoimmune conditions. And I was at a 10 for Hashimoto's out of like, I think it's 31. But she was confident that if we made the changes, then we would really have to worry about that. So it was like, don't do intense workouts, lots of walks. And I got, for like me, I got kind of soft, which I don't know. Last year, it sort of was like the theme anyway. So whatever. I just realized I needed to do what I had to do. Like you have to do what you need to do to heal your body and stop worrying about necessarily, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to like build muscle or lose fat or whatever your aesthetic goal might be. Sometimes you really just need to like heal the body first. And we
Mhm.
did a little bit of thyroid work. And then I was lucky. Like I did a 3-month stint of literally the same meals every single day and didn't eat out for 3 months. And then we added, which I don't know, sometimes I think about going back to that because I'm like, I thrived on it, but it is very hard socially. And around Thanksgiving, I had 3 or 4 no bake cookies and I could literally feel the sugar buzzing in my brain. And my mom was like, "Is that good?" I was like, "I don't know. I can just really feel it. I really feel it." And that was sort of like a day to sort of test and just relax. And then as I went into December, we started adding things back in. And then I went ahead and did a Dutch test to figure out what my hormones were doing, and everything was low. And so we worked on that a little bit. And yeah, we've gotten to a point where now I can kind of play with dieting and maintaining and whatever we've done all summer. But I can tell like I still have to be really careful about, it's like something with alcohol, it's sugar for sure, and just staying on top of like my gut repair supplements and some of the things that I've just had since I started. And I'm not even sure that I might not need to go back and redo some of it too, if I've gotten a little bit farther off track.
Mhm.
So that's nothing to do with like clean eating and dieting and whatever. It's just like you really can't have like donuts every day, which I don't really want, but that kind of stuff. Like you can't drink a bunch or you're going to break out. Like it's super annoying.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And I would rather feel good and feel confident in my skin and in my body and not deal with uncontrollable bloating and like poop attacks. Like, no, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
no, thank you. So whatever, enough about that. But I hope that you are able to find some answers for yourself too, as you keep like being health
Yeah.
detective for yourself and navigating also doctors.
Yeah, I'm working on it because especially so I went to this new doctor and I was like, yeah, I told him I'm like, I had H. pylori, I treated it through antimicrobials. And he actually refused to test me again unless I agreed to use a 2 antibiotics and a PPI in order to treat my H. pylori. And which is crazy, right? Like, why wouldn't you just at least give the client, give them the information, let them decide, am I positive or not? And then he was like, yeah, if you're going to treat it with a more gentle approach, like I'm not going to test you. And I'm like, so you want me to take 2 antibiotics, which are literally just going to completely wipe out my gut health that I
Yeah.
have been trying to build up. And I also don't think a PPI is what I need by any means. I actually think I have very low stomach acid. And so I'm like, yeah, I might need a new doctor. But for me, it's just kind of like, I don't want to take an antibiotic unless it's absolutely necessary.
Mhm.
Obviously if I was very sick and I was like, go very, very ill. But right now I'm like, I actually think that, and then I got blood work done, which actually there's a way you can look it through your blood work. And
Mhm.
just based on what things are high and low, it'll give you a pretty good signal if you have H. pylori still.
Mhm.
And that side of blood work looked good. So I'm like, I think I took care of it without the antibiotics.
Yeah, which is so like when you're trying to advocate for yourself and you're getting pushback on it, which is really, really frustrating. And in that sense, like maybe it is time to look for a new provider, or maybe you just we're gonna butt heads on this one issue, but it happens a lot. Like I said, like I've been in the skincare industry for a long time, and I knew like I was like, I really just don't trust trying to go to a dermatologist and getting a cream or a steroid topical, like especially for facial skin that's just going to thin something out and it's not really going to solve the problem.
Well, my
So
dermatologist wanted me to do Accutane, which exactly, right?
yeah, my face, everyone, my face was
Accutane,
shocked.
which then along with Accutane, you have to go on birth control. Like they don't
Ugh,
let you take it. So it's like that's the solution for all of this
yeah.
when so then putting me on
Mhm,
more things that are going to essentially destroy your gut. And
mhm.
I mean, there's so many negatives with Accutane. Like
Yeah.
honestly, this was before I even kind of realized, and I just heard all those negatives and I was like, I'm not doing this, especially just the depression I know a lot of people go through with
Mhm.
being on that. I said, there's no way. Like,
Yeah. This is why functional medicine is like so necessary. And it's like it's a realm that I've been aware of for a long time, but not in a sense of it being like you could actually go to them like you would your doctor. That's just been something that I realized existed in the last couple of years. Like there's whole companies and people that do this and help you with your everyday or not so everyday health problems. But I remember my dad taking me into like natural food markets and herbs and this and that, and the lady who did the muscle testing and like all this stuff that I really had no clue what it was for. But it's something that's sort of been in my environment. And now it's interesting that it comes full circle because he and I've had a conversation about it recently too, and how it's just so interesting how like went from a kid that had no idea what it was to an adult that I'm now very familiar.
yeah, no. And it's kind of sad though that it's like, it's not
Mhm.
covered by insurance for most people. And
Mhm.
so people think it's the only way is
Oh, I know. Well, and it's not always a cheap process,
nope.
especially
No,
when
the
you're,
stool testing that I did,
yeah,
I mean, the antimicrobial plan. I mean,
it's worth
sometimes I
it.
think, yeah, and sometimes
It's
they
worth
think
it.
as a coach, one, it shows, hey, I spent this money on myself, but it's like getting people to like, you need this. Like, I know it's a few
Mhm.
$100s, but you need this. And I
Ugh.
think oftentimes when we're helping someone through gut health, it's a lot of opposite things than what we tell someone when we're going through fat loss, right? So if
Mhm.
their main goal is fat loss, they have no gut health issues. Yeah, we can totally get you to lose fat and still eat pizza and still drink alcohol, and your diet is going to be very sustainable. However, if you come to me with gut health issues, no, we can I
Mhm.
cannot fix your gut health if you're going to keep drinking every weekend. I cannot fix your gut health if you're going to keep eating pizza. And the way that you need to eat in order to fix your gut, it doesn't have to be sustainable, right? It's like, let's do this strict, let's clean it out, let's identify key issues. And then from there, it's a healing process, but it doesn't have to be a sustainable diet, but it is more of a
Right.
strict diet up front.
Exactly. But it can help you put into place things that you will take with you for the rest of your life that are very positive.
I agree that you can learn a lot of things that you put into play, especially just in reading ingredients in
Mm,
foods. I think that's one of
to-
the biggest things I have
totally.
learned and started to just Google. So a lot of people, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. A lot of people are obsessed with like these mission tortillas because they have the low carb and they have the fiber. And if you read those ingredients, what you're getting this so-called fiber from is literally made of wood pulp.
Yep.
And yeah, exactly. And so it's like same thing with like a lot of things like fiber one bars, right? Like the fiber you get from that is not the same fiber that you get from an apple. And
Mhm.
actually a lot of people end up getting stomach issues from that. But just looking at like at the end of the day, like start to just read an ingredient list. And I'm definitely not someone where it's like, oh, if you can't pronounce something, don't eat it, right? No, Google it, figure out what it is first, and then be
Mhm.
like, is this something? And I'll be honest, I have told clients, I was like, this is what's in your food. And some clients have said to me, like, I don't really care. And I'm like, okay, if you don't care. However, for me, I'm like, that's not,
Yeah.
like, I just don't ever see myself going back to eating that way.
It's incredibly enlightening in so many ways. It really is. And it's almost like, did I really need to be this in tune, or was it better to be oblivious? But honestly, like if you're feeling that crappy, your life could change if this is something that you need and you go through it and you stick with it and you learn from it and you don't just go back to what you were doing. Like it can change your life
Mhm.
totally. I mean, I literally went from sobbing on the floor in like a dark room to like jumping out of bed, like ready to go to the farmer's market and get my 15 zucchinis so that I could have my 8 cups of vegetables a day.
No, I mean, I know I like literally I remember a night just like crying in my bedroom about my skin. Like
Mhm.
I'm like, I swear I've tried everything. And oh my God, the amount of people would be like, do you wash your face? Like I want to like, well, I'm already losing my hair, so I'm not gonna try, but you make me want to pull my hair out when you ask me that.
Well, I have a really
Yeah.
special product. It's my greens, my pink drink or my green juice. You should probably try that. It's really excellent for gut health. Get the fuck out of my DMs right now.
Oh my God, no.
Nope. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So, what are some signs or some symptoms that somebody could kind of be aware of or look for, or that they might be experiencing that could be a sign that they need to dive deeper into their gut health?
Yeah, so I would definitely say chronic bloating, right? I mean, all of us, we're going to have times where maybe we get a little bit bloated, or maybe you have a time where you eat something and you have diarrhea. But if you are always bloated after a meal, if you're always kind of, and I don't mean full, right? I want you to kind of
Yeah,
think
like
full.
distended.
Yes. If you are always bloated after a meal, I think this is one of the worst trends happening on Instagram right now. It's like influencers being like, bloating is normal. No, that is a sign that you need to look into what you're eating. Um,
I know what you're
so,
talking about.
oh my God, like it's not, I mean, it's common, right? Just because
There's,
something is common does not
yeah.
mean it should be normal.
Well, and there's relaxed stomach and there's bloated stomach.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. And
okay.
there's yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not going to have like the same abs if I'm not flexing.
Mm-hmm.
So noticing kind of how you feel after you eat. If you are feeling lethargic after a meal, that's kind of a sign that something's up. Again, you should be going to the bathroom ideally 1 to 2 times a day, every single day. If that's not happening, start thinking. And then, so obviously, any kind of digestive distress, right? Like time to dig in. And especially if it's happening often, obviously, there's going to be times where we just eat something and maybe it was undercooked, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then outside of gut issues, I would say things like brain fog, thinning hair, acne, rosacea, eczema, any type of skin issue. And the most unique symptom that I noticed, actually, that I discovered is I used to get this like shooting pain in my shoulder blade.
Mm.
And that is tied to my gallbladder.
Oh.
So that's been something really interesting. And I used to just think it was stress. And that's been one of the biggest changes. I'm like, I used to just get like the worst pains, and then looking at your stress, right? Making sure that that's in a good spot. And I think when you start to notice these symptoms, before you even dive into like, oh, I need to do an elimination diet, I would ask yourself a few basic questions, right? Like, are you drinking enough water?
Mm-hmm.
Are you eating enough fiber? For some people, this means 20 to 25 grams a day. For a lot of people, though, that have some gut distress, I see them doing much better at even 40 to 50 grams a day of
Mm-hmm.
fiber. And then, are you actually chewing your food? so many of us, we eat right here at our desk in front of a screen, watching TV. You're not really paying attention, but making sure that you're actually chewing your food and then
Mhm.
eating in a rest and digest state. So a lot of people know fight or flight, but the opposite of that is our rest and digest. If we think about we're stressed out, we get really tense, right? So our insides get tense as well, and it doesn't allow digestion to move freely. And then also just movement throughout the day. If you're living a very sedentary life, our digestion does not just work on its own. Like our food from our stomach will not necessarily, like it needs gravity actually to help it start to get food moving through. So trying to go on a quick little walk after you eat a meal can be really helpful. But kind of starting with these things first, making sure that this is the things that you're doing before you feel like you have to dive into an elimination diet or a $300
Mhm.
protocol. Because there are some people that, you know, looking at just that can make a lot of improvements.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes it really is just slowing down, eating your food, getting a little bit more movement, having some water, increasing the fiber. Those are all great tips that you can literally apply to your life today. And even like the eating super quick, that was me. I had to give myself a little bit more time. I was always eating really quick in between breaks. And so I had to really force myself to slow down, to eat, stop looking at my phone. And working in the beauty industry, just making sure that I got enough water in my day. And especially for people who are still like masking at work or who are just really busy and forget, like setting a reminder or having a time, like kind of a routine for getting enough water in, that makes it such a huge difference. Just, I mean, regardless of digestion, but for digestion too. So those are amazing tips that you can literally take with you right now. I love it. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned like getting enough water in and making a schedule for yourself, but even I have on my calendar like take a lunch. So after like
Yes,
1 o'clock is when,
same.
right? And I have on my calendar too, like dinner time. And even not even looking at this from a gut health perspective, but like you got to eat. And I think just the fact that like so many people are sitting at a desk all day, they don't have that like day to day of like when you were at an office of like, okay, everyone goes to lunch at noon, but making sure that you're eating. And especially, you know, with if you, and then on the opposite side, if you are back at a job where you're wearing a mask all day, like still getting water in, still like feeling okay that you can do that and like eating and feeling safe and healthy there, but making sure that
Mhm.
it's definitely different times than it was a few years ago.
For sure. Yes, 100%. Why do you love what you do as a coach?
I love what I do because I think so many women just really start to come into their true self and they sign up for it thinking that, oh, it's because I need to lose 20 pounds. And what they end up realizing is that it's truly just about taking care of themselves and learning that it's okay to put yourself first.
Mhm.
And it sounds silly, but I think it's just something that so many women struggle with. And it gives them an outlet to go through that, right? Because if you kind of just sit someone down and say, take care of yourself first, they're gonna be like, what do I do? But
Yeah.
when you sit them down and you just start having them feed themselves and move their body, and from that, I think so many things fall into place. And I think
Mhm.
kind of going back to my origin story, it's like that's what really worked for me. I was like, you know what? I started taking care of myself. From there, I don't think I ever would have had like the balls to leave my job and go after my own business or to, you know, have my own, like I never, and if you had asked me 10 years if I thought I'd be an entrepreneur, like hell no. But
Mhm.
just the empowerment that women get from these really simple tasks of making sure that they feel good. It makes me so happy. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I agree. I love that. What do you like to do outside of coaching?
Gosh. So my previous job, I actually was a designer. So I did a lot of fashion accessories. And while the last job I had, I hated it, I do still enjoy just like fashion trends. kind of sketching here and there.
That's cool.
Also, I journal a lot, but just kind of like being creative. And gosh, I know I should be better at this though too. I'm like,
Oh,
all I do is go
you
to
live
the
in
gym.
Miami. I feel like you get out and you like do active things. And I
I
mean,
do like the
she's
paddleboard.
not out like clubbing y'all. Like,
No, I
yeah.
don't. It's like that's definitely an issue in Miami. I'm like, I need to move somewhere else in Florida. But no, I love paddleboarding, and I think like that's, fashion, and I don't know,
Yeah.
creativity and like drawing. I don't know. I used to always draw growing up. So kind of
Mhm.
it's been really nice to get back to that from a perspective of I don't need it for money, but like I actually enjoy drawing. And so like now I
Mhm.
can get back to that. It's been really nice.
It can be something that's like a stress reliever and something that helps like fill your cup back up too, so that you can
Yes.
continue to give to others,
Yeah, exactly.
which is what we tend to preach a lot to our clients.
Yes. And I watch a
But
lot of Grey's Anatomy.
there you go. I've been watching Frankie and Grace lately, and
Oh, I haven't watched
oh
the new
my gosh,
season, but
I
I like
freaking
Grace.
love that show. I don't know where I've been because
Yeah,
I think it's hilarious.
so do I.
Love it. So what would you tell how old are you? You're 30, 31,
I'm turning 32 tomorrow.
32. What would you tell your 25-year-old self?
Oh gosh. I would tell her to stop putting your whole life into this corporate job that will literally replace you in 2 days, because that's what I did. And I didn't see my family enough because I lived in another state, and I wouldn't take my vacation days, and I would stay late at work, and then I would drink because I was stressed. And at the end
Mhm.
of the day, it's a corporate company that truthfully, if you're not making the money, bye. And
Yeah.
just to really feed more into myself and follow my passions more. And also to listen to that, because even when I was working, I do like fashion and trends and stuff, but I could always tell at the same time the girls who were really into fashion and they had these dreams of opening a boutique. And I never had that. And I was like, eh. And that the quote where it was, if your dreams, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. I definitely didn't have very big dreams, and I didn't really know where I was going with that. So I think just really encouraging myself to find my own passion and not just
Mhm.
feeling like I had to stick into this like corporate, oh, you went to college, you had to get a job, pay your loans back, and like buy a house routine, because that's not how my life has ended up at all.
The thing that we're like told. I thought that I would be. I also grew up watching Saved by the Bell, and Kelly and Zach were like the ideal relationship, but it was go to college, get married, have kids. Like 28 was like this magic number for some reason. I don't really know why. By 28, all this was going to have happened. And at 25, I gave myself 5 more years to feel like having kids. And by 29, I was divorced. So, like, I
All
mean,
right.
like sometimes life takes a different turn and you
Yeah.
figure out who you are beyond the like ideals and things that people say you should be doing. Do your like goals and your dreams for your business now, I don't want to say scare you, because I also think that can be exciting,
Yeah.
do they?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, even looking at that, like I mentioned in the next few years, having a kid is definitely a goal of mine. And even that scares me. I'm like, well, wait, I just started this business. Can I have a kid and run a business? And
Mhm.
like, then I kind of look at the women I look up to in this space. I'm like, absolutely, I can, right? Like, I don't have to just
Yeah.
pick one. But yeah, I mean, I would love to. It's scary to share these things, right? But I would love to one day kind of blend my, fashion and athletic passion and have my own line of some sort.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be
Do
a big
it.
goal of mine.
We need
So
it.
big, I definitely have big goals there. Versus in my corporate job, it was like, oh, get the next promotion. Like 2 years from
Hmm.
now, I need to get another promotion. The another 2 years, okay, like very
Hmm.
standard.
Yeah. Which can be okay if that's what you want. Depends on what your goals are. But I mean, if you're not loving it, then I mean, obviously things just worked out the way they were supposed to for you. So that's
Exactly.
awesome. What is a fitness myth, a fitness industry myth, or a thing that is very common that you would like to see die?
Orange Theory Fitness. That's
Okay.
not a myth, but that's a
Let's go
fitness
there.
thing. I'm so over it. Oh God, the Peloton. I'd probably pick the Peloton over that. Like either one. People just spend so much money on these two things. Like Orange Theory is not cheap. Pelotons are not cheap. You can buy a bike, guys, if you love biking, like buy a bike. But I think the idea that people, if we want to go more like myth, it's like people think like, oh, I buy this thing and I'm gonna lose the weight I want, right? Which at the end of the day, I think most women buying both of these, going to Orange Theory, what they really need is more low impact things, more walking, less stress. Also, I was listening to a conversation over the weekend, and this is why it's on my head, but someone said, oh yeah, Orange Theory is HIIT workouts. And just that idea, I'm like, okay, if you're doing a workout for an hour, that is no longer a HIIT workout. Like a high intensity interval training is 20 minutes max, high intensity. You can't keep going for an hour. But I think just these ideas that people think they can, it kind of comes back to the idea like, oh, you're going to outwork your bad diet, right? When really it's just the opposite of what most people need. They probably need more nutrition help. They need to just go on more walks, and they're probably better off putting that money into buying real foods than Orange Theory and Peloton. There's like these cults around them, right? I'm sorry.
The pro there is that you buy, well, it's not pro, but you buy community, and community is really, really nice to have. And it's kind of like being part of like the Apple/Mac community. Like it's like that. It's that whole brand of the tribes, whoever wrote that, I can't remember at the moment. Seth Godin wrote the book Tribes. It's essentially what that is. Very sedentary society. So we do need to get out and move, but the thought that we have to like die, like kill ourselves in a workout and be super, super sweaty to get results is completely false, because you actually don't have to do that. And we live in so much more stress now that we're actually just placing more stress on the body doing that. And oftentimes not enough food or proper nutrition and not enough rest and recovery. Like, so yeah, it just creates this like kind of compounding snowball effect of issues. And we're placing so much emphasis on like calorie burn and how many calories did I burn with my iPhone watch or whatever. Like, who fucking cares? Like, do you feel good? Do you feel like you put some work in? Like, okay, cool. You don't have to be like drenched and dying to have a good workout. I mean, also that's not my style. So like, I would never go do that. I like a leisurely weightlifting session.
I very rarely sweat
with a little bit of like conditioning, and I like going for walks. But I mean, so that's kind of my personal, but I also think that it's so beneficial for people to understand like how impactful recovery actually is for us just in general. There's so much coming at us daily. But yeah, that was a good one. So
you know what? Don't get me wrong. I definitely have clients who still Peloton and they still do Orange Theory because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, we're not going to do it 6 days a week.
Yeah. Right.
Like 2 days a week. Yeah. We're balancing everything else out there.
Heart health is important. Yeah. We're not against cardio, people. We're not against it. Yeah. But you don't have to do hours, and you don't have to like kill yourself every single day, like to do that to get the results. But yeah, I mean, I can understand like how fun the workouts must be, I don't know. I don't like riding a bike that much, but I do understand classes because I've gone to like a bar/Pilates class, and I really did enjoy those. They're quite a bit different. I really did enjoy those. I mean, because you meet nice people, or the instructors are nice, and you just feel like you have some support there, I guess.
And also, I mean, you're even just like safer going to those versus group fitness classes where you're doing,
oh man,
dude, it's one of the biggest things people injure themselves with.
Yeah, totally. Like
go through some personal training first before so that you can like learn and somebody can watch your body movement patterns and any like mobility issues you might have before you start going and doing a bunch of explosive freaking lifting and shit. Well, this has been super enjoyable and informative. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and your tips for gut health. And where can everyone connect with you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow my Instagram. So it's at JustFitJustine. And then I'm on Facebook as well, Justine Benzinger.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. And I will talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
What a great conversation getting to know Justine more. I absolutely love watching people light up when they talk about what they're passionate about. And if you would like to see more about my personal gut health journey and the drastic physical changes in my skin, you can visit my Instagram at Coach Abby O'Sullivan. Go give me a follow over there. And if you think this episode would be helpful for someone else, if they are having some of the troubles and symptoms that we've discussed on this episode, I would love for you to share it with them. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Avio podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra laugh once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abio.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.